Everything changes so fast. And people are getting ahead. But the less we can rely on. The Jakarta-Post. More than 39 years of presence with independent journalists. With comprehensive from political and business conversation in all platform. Bold and resilient up-to-date news in digital and print. And the global discussion that you can follow from the top experts. Download the mobile app for your mobility. On Google Play Store and App Store. Or you can access it at the-Jakarta-Post.com. Join and subscribe now.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to our special live coverage, the inauguration of President Prabowo Subianto. And the title for our live event this morning is A Nation at a Crossroads. My name is Taufik Rahman and I'm the chief editor of the Jakarta-Post. I will be your host and moderator for this morning's program. After what seems like an eternity, it's only 9 months ago that we have presidential election. Today we finally arrive at the very crucial moments in the country's history with the coming of a new president and a departure of an incumbent president. President Jokowi has been a towering figure in Indonesian politics for the past 10 years, and I believe that he will continue playing a key role in the country's politics. But today we will focus on the new president, Mr. Prabowo Subianto, who I believe in the next 30 minutes or so will be inaugurated as the country's 8th president and the 3rd in Indonesian history to be directly elected into office. Mr. Prabowo is sworn in today against the backdrop of a multitude of problems, both internationally and domestically. The war in Gaza and now in Lebanon and the coming conflict between Israel and Iran will surely be on Mr. Prabowo's mind, given his background in international politics. Also, the prolonged war in Ukraine must have weighed heavily on his mind. On the domestic front, although political situation remains stable, and we have to acknowledge that the transition has been a smooth one, but on the economic front, things look quite bleak with reports of layoffs in the manufacturing sector and the deepening of the cost of living problems. The economic woes affecting the country's middle class can be also a source of worry for the new administration. With all that in mind, today we will discuss what is in store for a Prabowo Subianto's administration, and to talk about some of the crucial issues facing the new president. I'm joined today by some of the brightest mind in political and business analysis. First, I want to welcome Pak Yusuf Wanandi, the co-founder of the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS. Good morning and welcome to the program, Pak Yusuf.
Thank you.
Always happy to have you.
Thank you so much. It's nice.
Our second speaker is Adam Schwartz, or given his long stay in Indonesia, I should say Pa Adam. The CEO of Asia Group Advisors, and I believe a one-time copy editor for the Jakarta-Post. So welcome back to Jakarta-Post, Adam.
Thank you, Pak Taufik.
Also joining us this morning is a good friend of the Jakarta-Post, Pak Philips Vermonte, Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences of the Indonesian International Islamic University, UIII. Good morning, Pak Philips.
Morning.
And last but not least is Ibu Hendri Saparini, founder of CORE Indonesia. CORE, I believe, is Center of reform
on
on economics
Yes.
Indonesia.
Yes.
Thank you, Bu Henry. Always happy to have you
Okay.
in the panel.
Thank you. Good morning.
I believe we're still waiting for the swearing in ceremony, and we're still waiting for the inauguration. And we will bring the live footage from the house when we have it. But I think we can first start our discussion about. I think with considering with everything that has happened, especially in the past 1 week, I think it's very interesting to see. Probably we can get a glimpse on the leadership style of Pak Prabowo, especially in the selection of the minister. But I want to go first to Pak Yusuf. What is your impression so far on how the process has been taking place?
Overwhelming. I think that the president to be, is looking forward to such a big group of people to help him. On the one hand, maybe it's encouraging, but on the other hand, it's just a problem of control, what he's planning to do with such a big numbers of his aides. So I'm a little bit with trepidation face the future in the sense of, you don't know yet how this is going to work out. We had one time, you remember, 108 people in the presidential cabinet as well, 50 years ago or so. But that didn't help for sure as a model. So now we have another group, and I hope that the president understands that this is a very, very big task for him to keep that going and actually united.
Okay, and given the reality, for instance, the sort of shrinking fiscal space that the country has right now, what do you think is the motivation for the president-elect to have this, a big group of people being put in the cabinet?
Well, he was always planning, to have this togetherness of the nation, and that I think was in plan there to him by Jokowi. And then now he is going to face it, of course, how to do it. And this is one model. You get them all together, like Bung Karno said, actually, under the working, at the working table as well as at the dinner table. So we'll see how this is going to work out. Will not be easy, that's for sure.
And how do you think he will sort of manage this a big group of individuals in the cabinet? Do you think that his sort of military-style leadership from the past will be used this time again?
Well, I think you have to accept that this man is a very strong man. So he is willing to take risks. He is willing to impose himself if necessary. So I think that is the number one, actually a token of the new thing, and that is you have a leader that is definitely not shy to impose himself on the group. So that is, I think, he has in mind in the case of, organizing, the whole group together.
Okay, thank you, Pak Yusuf. I want to move on to Pak Adam. I think it's the same question so far. What is your sort of assessment on how the process has gone so far?
Listen, I think in terms of the transition period itself, it's actually been quite successful. As you just mentioned, it had the extra challenge of being a particularly long one. So 8+ months is a long time for a president and a president-elect to get along harmoniously. Now, he had the advantage of being, in the campaign, being described as the continuity candidate. And so, in many respects, there really weren't so many policy, and again, with some exceptions, even political differences between the two men. So that certainly helped. And then I think finally, both men, it seemed to me anyway, made an effort to keep what disagreements and differences they might have had private. And so I think they both seemed quite invested in giving the appearance that it was sort of a seamless transition. Now, that may in fact have given a perception that the transition wasn't quite as smooth as it might have appeared publicly, but I think overall, from the public's perspective, I think it went quite well.
Okay, and on the sort of selection process itself, and probably we're going to focus on the huge number of people being invited, being vetted, and I think we can be sure now that they will be placed in actual, cabinet ministers or deputy ministers. Is this going to be sort of a source of worry for investors, for instance?
Well, I think, just to maybe repeat a comment that Pak Yusuf made, in terms of the size of it, I think it's clear that he's trying to give a sense of inclusion. If we go back even to his acceptance speech after the election, it was all about inclusivity and that he was going to be representing all Indonesians and not just those who voted for him. And of course, he's, again, as Pak Yusuf said, he's quite familiar with that because he's been serving in a cabinet much like that, right, where you have a president with a large governing coalition, many of those parties represented in his cabinet, together with technocrats and academics, and former election rivals like himself, of course, was an election rival of Pak Jokowi. But just to the second part of your question, again, as Pak you said, there's clearly concern about how to coordinate such a large group of people. There are extra coordinating ministries. But in the past, the coordinating ministries have been a bit hit or miss when it comes to coordinating. And then the question arises, who's going to coordinate the coordinating ministry? So it probably, because the coordinating mechanisms in the government are not particularly empowered or well resourced, it probably will take, again, I agree with Pak Yusuf, quite a strong direct role by the president to keep everybody in the same line. And he's got a lot of jobs already. I think he's going to be focused on external and international relations. So, we'll just have to see, are there going to be individuals or that he will empower with that coordinating role, or will he create new mechanisms that are a bit stronger from a coordination? If neither of those happen, then there becomes a risk of, policy confusion and delays in decision making.
And to expand on the issue of sort of the individuals that he has picked or he has vetted so far, I think early after being reelected or recently Mr. Prabowo mentioned that, this is going to be a sort of technocratic cabinet, right? With the inclusion of experts or businessmen, for instance. I want to focus sort of on the individual level, some of the people's. Do you find some of the choices surprising or someone or something that you haven't expected?
Well, it's, I think the initial reaction is a little bit more kind of the size of the cabinet as opposed to the individuals. First of all, there's a lot of carryover from the existing cabinet, so there's a lot of familiar faces. But within the economic arena, there are clearly people with different views, right, and different agendas in terms of openness to foreign investment would be one example, or how they view trade. So again, this will come back to whether the president is going to have a clear direction that he's going to communicate to the cabinet. Again, if he doesn't, then there's certainly the risk here that there's going to be conflicting signals being sent to the business community. I would maybe add one more concern of the business community, which is that which is organizational. There are a number of new ministries that are being started for the first time. There's a number of ministries that are being split into two ministries. And just like a company might do, when a government goes through a big reorganization like that, it takes time. You have to find new buildings. You have to find new civil servants that have to be vetted and appointed. You have to have ministerial work plans, just to name a few. All of that takes time. So the question is, let's say for the first year of Pak Prabowo's presidency, given this coordination concern and just the the reorganization burden. What's it going to look like, from a kind of a policy clarity point of view, at least for year one?
Okay, thank you, Adam. I want to move on to Phillips. Given your sort of background in political science, and you have analyzed the Indonesian politics from the sort of insider's perspective, the workings of political parties, and judging from what we have seen with the vetting of the ministers, and this mostly comes from political parties. Do you think that this sort of fits the pattern of the sort of current political arrangement in Indonesian politics?
Yeah, I think if I may take a step back,
Sure.
I think the event in 2001 haunted presidents after Gus Dur, when Gus Dur was kind of resigning from the office because of political parties in the parliament at that time, suddenly decided that he's unfit for the presidency. And then that affected, in my view, SBY. SBY, I believe, was haunted by that event. So he created big coalition, trying to include everybody because he didn't want to see that happen to his presidency as well. And same thing with, I think, Pak Jokowi. For 10 years. Now, then I think it is also the consequence of our election system and party system, because if we take a step back as well on how president is nominated in our election law, it requires a high barrier to entry, that you have to have 20% of the seats in the parliament and 25% of the votes. For this election, it has to be using the past election of 2019. So candidates were forced to create, so-called coalition. And then, of course, then all this trading and then promises of cabinet posts and so on and so on had to be accommodated. So that's what we see now, that even now bigger cabinet, SBY already quite big in the sense, Pak Jokowi the same thing. So I think it has something to do with our electoral system as well. Now, to comment on Pak Yusuf and Pak Adam thinking about this huge size of the cabinet, I have a hunch that maybe Pak Prabowo will govern through the agencies, not to the ministries, because he set up various agencies that would be put under him directly. And these agencies would implement the priorities of his program. You have Badan Pangan and others and so on. So that's my hunch, that he give this position to the political parties, but the portfolio, the important portfolio of that ministry would be under him directly through these agencies. But this is, we will see whether that is true or not when he formally announced all these ministers and cabinets and in the cabinets and agencies. So, but I think he is creating this big cabinet to satisfy the political parties for the time being, while making sure that his priorities would be implemented by him only directly through these agencies that he created as well. But that is not answering the question of how then it will be coordinated, which I think we will give benefit of the doubt for the time being, because we have to wait.
Okay. Yeah, I think this morning I've done the math, and so far we have around 112, I think, 113. 113, one more. So, yeah, I think we know that, I think after the ministry law was amended to give, bigger number of people in the cabinets, I think we kind of know that this will be a bigger cabinet. But were you surprised that this is this huge in terms of size?
Yeah, but I think Pak Prabowo has been trying to be elected for a long time. And I think over the years he's been thinking about this. And some of the names, according to many people, are new and so on. I think it's because we are unfamiliar of Pak Prabowo circle. Because for 10, 15 years, he had been on the other side of power and with his own circle and with his own thinking and judgment about things. But I think we are as well seeing some continuity, 27 coming from the Pak Jokowi's cabinet. So we see the combination of this inclusion and continuity. But then the other names have not been tested. And I think normally I would say in the context of Indonesia and our budget cycle and so on, it is 1 year, 1 year from now, Pak Prabowo would have the real opportunity to have his budget, his vision put into the budget, because the budget that he's going to use for the next 1 year has been decided by President Jokowi in the last parliament session. So he actually has to work with that budget, not yet able to fully implement what he has in mind, then and translate it into budget. If you have vision but you don't have budget, we cannot, measure anything, I would say.
So we can expect that you mentioned about 1 year period, right? Does that mean that we can expect, well, probably in a year we're going to have a cabinet reshuffle?
I'm not going into the direction, but learning from Pak Jokowi.
Yes.
You remember in 2014, he had this vision of infrastructure, but his fiscal space is very limited because the budget had been decided by President SBY in the parliamentary session in August. What he did was he removed fuel subsidy, and that was bold decision, and according to many, it was brave decision. But in my view, because he had no choice, he had no option, he had to remove that fuel subsidy so that he had fiscal space and he could hit the ground running with his infrastructure program. Now for Pak Prabowo, right now we don't see what would be his plan yet. Maybe he just going along with the existing budget and then wait until 1 year. And I think he's been known to the public as well by his statement to his would-be ministers that he would review and evaluate them in 1 year. I think that's in accordance with this budget cycle that we have in Indonesia.
Okay, I think the discussion on budget and fuel subsidy, I think that's a perfect segue to Ibu Henry. But I want to sort of ask the same question actually, Bu Henry. But this is more on the sort of economic team. What is your sort of assessment so far on the process, and probably if you can talk about some of the individuals that will be back in the economic team.
Yes, I'm quite surprised because if we follow what the statement of Prabowo during the campaign and also before that, it's look like there is a different priority in the economic policy and also the sectoral. But then most of the team is the old team from the Pak Jokowi. So it means that is it not easy for Pak Prabowo to translate what is the priority of him to the new team. So it means that the old team should be a new approach, a new priority. It is not easy. And in this time, maybe some minister, like for example, Bu Sri Mulyani, is for the satisfaction for the international market. But we still have problem with domestic market. So what the need of the Prabowo to do is the guideline, because without the clear direction, clear guideline to the team, this is a huge team, this is not easy. Because like what Philip said, that the priority of Pak Prabowo in economic and social is totally quite different with Pak Jokowi. Like for example, free meal. It will need budget from the government. So I said if Pak Prabowo try to do the different approach in this program for example, this is not the government program, but this is a national program. So then he will invite it private sector and also social organization to do this program, then it will be okay for the fiscal. But totally this is a new approach that Bu Sri Mulyani never do this. So it is not easy. And then we also facing the problem not only the global market. There is uncertainty there. And what should do? Because right now we don't have quite strict strategy for the export. And also for the domestic, we're facing the problem of the unemployment because of the decentralization. Is there any direction from the president to all the ministerial in economy, especially, to solve this problem? Because in 10 years during Pak Jokowi, industrial manufacturing industry is not the priority. And we know that the growth of manufacturing sector is low behind the economic growth. So this is the problem. And we have very limited time. Why? Because the bonus demography it will be finished in 2035. We only have 10 years. And we facing deindustrialization since 2000 up to now, up today. So it means this is a big homework. So I think the most important for Prabowo is doing the domestic economy. Why? Because Indonesian economy is really 18% is depend on domestic economy. So this is the agenda that they have to do and how to do this. Maybe the priority is there, the team is there, but how to detailing this strategy and policy because we have like more than 10 ministerial. So the coordination will be more difficult.
And I think also on the personal level, I think it's only last week that we learned that Ibu Sri Mulyani will return, right?
Yes.
And we have heard, and this is like out in the open about this sort of disagreement between Pak Prabowo and Ibu Sri Mulyani on budget issues. And when it comes to coordination, will this be a problem?
I think if we revisit what Bu Sri Mulyani doing during Pak Jokowi, Bu Sri Mulyani is only follow what the priority of the Pak Jokowi. So then there's no problem.
Okay.
I don't think that Bu Sri Mulyani will say no to preparing the budget. No.
Okay.
She will try to fulfill the budget. But that's one that we don't want to do. I mean, because we have very limited budget, and what the Indonesian government need is to use all the government policy in trade, industry, fiscal, to support the industrialization. Not only that, because the discussion now is the budget is limited, so then the government cannot do anything. No, I don't think so. But the government have unlimited policy to encourage this economy.
Okay.
So that one that during Pak Jokowi, he didn't do it.
Okay.
So it means that we need a new approach using all the policy because we have a limited time to solve all this problem.
Okay, and in the meantime, with all the the expansion of the bureaucracy with the new ministries, probably in the next 2 or 3 years, the priority will be to get the to get the machine running, and obviously Pak Prabowo will have to have a quick win, right, to sort of show that he's doing something. So what is sort of the pathway that Pak Prabowo can do to have that quick win, Bu Henry?
I think we should give a note to Pak Prabowo because during Pak Jokowi, too many quick win program that is not related with the medium and long-term program. So you wasting the budget because I want to, next year I want this to be done, and then next year to be done is this. But then there is no direction to go to the priority sector. I don't want, Pak Prabowo doing the same thing. So I hope that if Pak Prabowo said that the Bappenas during his era is going to be more stronger, I hope the position of the Bappenas is also going to be more closer to the president, not in the same level with other ministers.
Okay. We're still waiting for the live feed from the House, but I don't think that we will have the swearing-in ceremony very soon. This is still the Speaker of the MPR speaking, opening the session. But while waiting for the swearing-in ceremony, I want to go back to Pak Yusuf, our first speaker, and this is going to be sort of, on a more personal level. Pak Yusuf, you have spoken with Pak Prabowo a couple of times, and we have heard about him in the past, about the reputation, his days in the military, and then his unsuccessful, political run for the office. What do you think has changed from Pak Prabowo, based on your, recent encounter with him?
Well, I hope that, of course, there's partly hope still, that he has changed in the meantime, and that is that he is willing to listen to others. How this is going to be to work out, all the programs that he has. But the heart is in the right place with this man, according to me. But the problem now is how to make him aware that what he has to do is really relevant for the people that he would like to serve. So I'm not sure yet how this is going to work out in practice, because although sometimes he has said the right things, sometimes he's still wavering how to do it. So we will see. I think in the near future how this is going to be worked out.
Sorry, Pak Yusuf, I have to cut you off because we have a live feed from the House. I think this is the big moment. We should turn our attention to the swearing-in ceremony if we can bring that up.
Wakil Presiden Republik Indonesia.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Demi Allah, saya bersumpah akan memenuhi kewajiban Wakil Presiden Republik Indonesia dengan sebaik-baiknya dan seadil-adilnya, memegang teguh Undang-Undang Dasar dan menjalankan segala undang-undang dan peraturannya dengan selurus-lurusnya, serta berbakti kepada nusa dan bangsa.
Rohaniwan disilakan kembali ke tempat semula. Persiapan penandatanganan berita acara pelantikan. Presiden Republik Indonesia dan Wakil Presiden Republik Indonesia serta pimpinan MPR disilakan menuju meja penandatanganan. penandatanganan berita acara pelantikan oleh Presiden Republik Indonesia dan Wakil Presiden Republik Indonesia. Selanjutnya, penandatanganan berita acara oleh pimpinan MPR RI. Dilanjutkan penyerahan berita acara oleh Ketua MPR RI kepada Presiden Republik Indonesia dan Wakil Presiden Republik Indonesia. Presiden Republik Indonesia dan Wakil Presiden Republik Indonesia disilakan menuju tempat yang telah ditentukan. Pimpinan MPR disilakan kembali ke tempat semula.
Okay, I think we can come back to our discussion, and I think what a moment it was, because we cannot underestimate the importance of the swearing-in ceremony just now. And I want to go back again to Pak Yusuf about, I think it wasn't, because I think early in the introduction, I mentioned something about that this is going to be Pak Prabowo's moment, right? But next to him, we have Mr. Gibran as the vice president. So I think this is like really powerful reminder that Pak Jokowi is still part of the equation. And I think we have talked about the fact that Pak Prabowo has been wanting this for a long time. And what do you think of sort of that scene that next to him is Gibran and probably he has to share something with him?
Well, as far as I know, definitely, Prabowo is thinking very highly of Jokowi, because he has been given the opportunity to become president at last. So therefore, that is not going to be forgotten by him very easily. That is one thing. But on the second thing is, of course, for practical reasons, now it's his turn to take over and to do the things. You cannot more depend, because Pak Jokowi said so before and all that. Now it's his command and his authority. So therefore he has to be aware that this is, he cannot depend on the old one. No more.
Okay.
Now it's his, and the expectation is that he should do it. That was my expectation, at least, that he has to be aware of that people's expectation. Now it's your turn. Now you do it, as you have said, earlier in your campaign.
Okay. And Adam, I think this is going to be, allusion to your book, right? A Nation Waiting, but Mr. Prabowo has been waiting for so long, and finally, here we are. So, what is sort of the same questions to you as well?
Well, you're right. He's been waiting a long time, and I think the situation here is a little bit unusual, right? Is that in the sense that President Jokowi has been, I think there's been a number of indications for quite a few years now that he intends to have a political role after this election. There are a number of his sort of people that he picked in the cabinet going forward, and I think it's reasonably clear that he wanted those people to stay in this cabinet. He has loyalists in some of the big political parties. I think it's safe to say he's given a lot of indications that he wants to retain some degree of political influence. Now that's not unique, but it can be awkward. So we talked earlier about this long transition period, this 8 months we've had, and it's all been reasonably seamless and smooth. But now we've got a transition, and I think again, if I were to look at it from kind of a investor point of view, or what we're going to get out of policy. The big question will be, how do these two men get along? How are they, I imagine it would be Pak Prabowo's expectation that Pak Jokowi will begin to recede and it will be his turn, as Pak Yusuf just said. It's possible Pak Jokowi has different thoughts on that question. and he will continue to want to see that his policy priorities continue to get sufficient priority and at a budget way from Prabowo, and eventually there's going to be differences of opinion. Prabowo has got his own priorities: food security, energy security, big hike in defense spending. So choices are going to have to be made, and whether those choices begin to create friction between these two men, I think is a big question that I think everybody has got on their mind as we look forward to think, all right, how much political stability is there going to be, and also I think again from an economic point of view, how much policy clarity is there going to be. If these two men continue to sort of, or not continue, begin to have disagreements over what the priority should be.
And well, in the event that the disagreements sort of come to a head, and again, this is from the investor's point of view, what sort of level of worry that investors or people outside of Indonesia should have if sort of the competition between these two major power holders, continue and could, escalate, so to speak.
Well, I think, one way to put it is really kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier is how quickly are we going to move forward? Like a transition always involves delay. You have new people coming in, but this transition is going to have additional delays. We've got a big cabinet that has to have new coordinating processes put in. We have 12 new ministries. The size of cabinet increases almost by a third. Just setting up organizationally will take time. Now, if we don't have sort of just one person giving direction and vision on a policy side, but we have 1.5, say, then that's another potential cause of delay in decision making going forward. As Buhendri said, which is a very good point, there isn't that much time to waste. Indonesia does enjoy a demographic dividend, but it's not going to last forever. Indonesia is in sharp competition with ASEAN neighbors for investment, and for Indonesia to get its share of it, there's going to need to be additional reforms, and that's going to take concentration and focus. And the concern is that these other factors, coordination, organizational, and policy coherence, could get in the way of that.
Okay, we're still waiting for Prabowo's speech, but before we go to the House compound again, I want to shift the question on the economic front, Buhendri, because I think Adam mentioned just now about sort of the priority on I don't know, the first 100 days or the first 3 months, 6 months. And there are competing priorities, right? Obviously, the biggest ticket item is the free meal program. But on the other hand, you have possibly Prabowo's own agenda of sort of, the military spending type of situation. What do you think that Prabowo will focus on in the first 3 months? If he go to the office tomorrow, what will be his first priority? And it's not necessarily that this is going to be the best for the country, but what do you think will be his priority?
Yeah, I think the priority he mentioned many times, and one maybe I want to talk about. I have a chance to make a discussion with the team, and then they say that what is the continuity from the Jokowi is the stability in economic, stability in social and politics, but not in political policy. So it means the priority will be different. So the allocating the budget is also different. For example, for the free meal, Pak Prabowo already have a pilot project for maybe last 5 months. So they're ready for that. So it means that they already have the priority for him for his priority from the team, and also for the infrastructure. For example, there is no in the priority sector for the infrastructure. What he want to do in infrastructure is infrastructure to support the agriculture, and then also the industry, and also housing. So it's been the different priority, even the same in the infrastructure sector. So I think it will be. I mean, we can say that Pak Prabowo will do that. It's not for like what Yusuf said. No, it's my term. So I already have my own priority. So that's why Pak Rahmat Pambudi maybe is going to be the Ministry of Bapenas.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay, I think we should go back to the House building again, because I think we're going to have the speech from Pak Prabowo, the new president. We don't say president-elect elect anymore. Okay, we can bring the live footage now.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita sekalian. Shalom, Om Swastiastu. Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, rahayu rahayu. Yang saya hormati dan yang saya muliakan, Presiden Republik Indonesia masa jabatan 2014-2024, Bapak Insinyur Joko Widodo beserta Ibu Iriana Joko Widodo. Wakil Presiden Republik Indonesia masa jabatan 2019-2024, Bapak Profesor Dr. Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin beserta Ibu Hajah Wuri Estu Ma'ruf Amin. Wakil Presiden Republik Indonesia masa jabatan 2024-2029, Saudara Gibran Rakabuming Raka beserta Ibu Selvi Ananda Putri. Presiden Republik Indonesia ke-6, Bapak Jenderal TNI Purnawirawan Profesor Dr. Haji Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. Wakil Presiden ke-6 Republik Indonesia, Bapak Jenderal TNI Purnawirawan Tri Sutrisno. Wakil Presiden ke-10 dan ke-12 Republik Indonesia, Bapak Haji Muhammad Yusuf Kalla. Wakil Presiden ke-11 Republik Indonesia, Bapak Profesor Dr. Budiono. Ibu Dr. Anda Sinta Nuriyah Abdurrahman Wahid. Ibu Soraya Hamzahas. Ketua Majelis Permusyawaratan Rakyat Bapak Ahmad Muzani dan para Wakil Ketua Majelis Permusyawaratan Rakyat yang saya hormati. Ketua dan para Wakil Ketua Dewan Perwakilan Rakyat. Ketua dan para Wakil Ketua Dewan Perwakilan Daerah. Ketua lembaga-lembaga negara, para ketua umum partai politik, Ketua Umum Partai Golkar, Saudara Dr. Bahlil Lahadalia, Ketua Umum Partai Gerindra yang diwakili oleh Hashim Joyo Hadikusumo, Ketua Umum Partai Nasdem, Bapak Dr. Andes Haji Surya Paloh, Ketua Umum Partai Kebangkitan Bangsa, Bapak Dr. Andes Haji Abdul Muhaimin Iskandar, Presiden Partai Keadilan Sejahtera, Bapak Haji Ahmad Saiku, Ketua Umum Partai Amanat Nasional Bapak Dr. Haji Zulkifli Hasan, Ketua Umum Partai Demokrat, Saudara Dr. Haji Agus Harimurti Yudhoyono, Ketua dan anggota Komisi Pemilihan Umum, Ketua Badan Pengawas Pemilihan Umum, Ketua Dewan Kehormatan Penyelenggaraan Pemilihan Umum, Jaksa Agung, Panglima TNI, Kapolri, para Kepala Staf Angkatan, Saudara Anies Rashid Baswedan, dan Saudara Abdul Muhaimin Iskandar. Saudara Ganjar Pranowo dan Saudara Profesor Dr. Mahfud MD. Sebagai pasangan calon presiden dan wakil presiden pada kontestasi pemilihan umum presiden dan wakil presiden tahun 2024 yang baru lalu. Saudara-saudara insan pers, media cetak, dan media elektronik dalam dan luar negeri, para tamu undangan dan teristimewa, saudara-saudaraku seluruh rakyat Indonesia, saudara-saudara sebangsa dan setanah air dimanapun engkau berada. Sebagai insan yang bertakwa, marilah kita tidak henti-hentinya memanjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Besar. Kita masih diberi kesehatan, dapat hadir di majelis yang baik ini, dan melaksanakan tugas konstitusi kita dengan baik dan aman. Saudara-saudara, hari ini kita mendapat kehormatan yang sangat besar pada acara pelantikan Presiden dan Wakil Presiden Republik Indonesia. Hari ini kita dihadiri 19 kepala negara dan kepala pemerintahan, serta 15 utusan khusus negara-negara sahabat lainnya. Tokoh-tokoh dari negara sahabat ini terbang dari tempat yang jauh di tengah kesibukan mereka, di tengah banyak masalah yang dihadapi. Mereka datang ke sini untuk menghormati bangsa dan rakyat Indonesia. Dan karena itu, atas nama seluruh bangsa dan rakyat Indonesia, saya ucapkan penghargaan terima kasih yang setinggi-tingginya kepada semua kepala pemerintah, kepala negara, dan perwakilan negara-negara sahabat yang hadir di sini. Yang saya hormati dan saya muliakan, Sultan dan yang di Pertuan Negara Brunei Darussalam Paduka Sri Baginda Sultan Hasan Al-Bolkiah Muizzaddin Wadaulah Ibni Omar Ali Saifuddin Sa'adul Khairi Wa'idin. Presiden Republik Filipina yang mulia Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. beserta Ibu Luis Araneta Marcos. Perdana Menteri Kerajaan Kamboja yang mulia Samdech Moha Borfor Tipadai Hun Manet. Perdana Menteri Republik Korea yang mulia Han Duck-soo. Perdana Menteri Malaysia yang mulia Datuk Sri Haji Anwar Ibrahim. Perdana Menteri Negara Merdeka Papua New Guinea yang mulia James Marape MP. Perdana Menteri Republik Serbia yang mulia Milos Vucevic. Perdana Menteri Republik Singapura yang mulia Lawrence Wong beserta Ibu Lu Tse Lui. Perdana Menteri Kepulauan Solomon yang mulia Jeremiah Manele MP. Perdana Menteri Republik Demokratik Timor Leste yang mulia Sanana Gusmao. Perdana Menteri Republik Vanuatu yang mulia Charlotte Salwai Tabi Masmas beserta Ibu Mari Justin Salwai. Wakil Presiden Republik Rakyat Tiongkok Yang Mulia Han Zheng, Wakil Presiden Republik Demokratik Rakyat Laos Yang Mulia Pani Yatoyu, Wakil Presiden Republik Sosialis Vietnam Yang Mulia Vo Thi An Duan, Wakil Perdana Menteri, Wakil pertama Perdana Menteri Federasi Rusia Yang Mulia Denis Manturov, Wakil Perdana Menteri merangkap Menteri Pertahanan Qatar Dr. Khalid bin Muhammad Al Attiyah, Wakil Perdana Menteri merangkap Menteri Pertahanan Australia Yang Mulia Richard Marles MP, Wakil Perdana Menteri Selandia Baru Yang Mulia Winston Peters, Wakil Perdana Menteri sekaligus Menteri Transportasi Kerajaan Thailand Yang Mulia Surya Jungrung Riankit, Utusan khusus dan mantan Presiden Republik Federal Jerman Yang Mulia Christian Wulff, Utusan khusus Putra Mahkota Kerajaan Arab Saudi, Menteri Negara Urusan Luar Negeri Yang Mulia Adel bin Ahmed Al Jubair, Utusan khusus Presiden Persatuan Emirat Arab, Menteri Toleransi dan Koeksistensi Yang Mulia Sheikh Nahyan Mabarak Al Nahyan, Utusan khusus Presiden Republik Arab Mesir, Menteri Wakaf Yang Mulia Osama Al Azhari, Utusan khusus Presiden Turkiye, Menteri Pertahanan Yang Mulia Jenderal Yasar Guler, Utusan khusus Perdana Menteri Kerajaan Britania Raya dan Irlandia Utara Menteri Luar Negeri Yang Mulia David Lammy MP, Utusan khusus Presiden Amerika Serikat, Wakil Tetap Amerika Serikat untuk PBB Yang Mulia Linda Thomas Greenfield, Sekretaris Jenderal Muslim Council of Elders Yang Mulia Muhammad Abdul Salam, Utusan khusus Perdana Menteri Republik India, Menteri Luar Negeri Yang Mulia Pabitra Margherita, Utusan khusus Kerajaan Yordan, Menteri Luar Negeri Yang Mulia Dr. Nancy Namruka, Utusan khusus Perdana Menteri Jepang, mantan Menteri Luar Negeri Yang Mulia Komura Masahiko, Utusan khusus Presiden Dewan Menteri Republik Italia, Wakil Menteri Pertahanan Yang Mulia Matteo Perego di Cremnago, Utusan khusus Kanada untuk Indo-Pasifik, Utusan Perdana Menteri Kanada Yang Mulia Ian MacKay, Utusan khusus Presiden Republik Prancis, Utusan khusus Prancis untuk ASEAN Yang Mulia François Corbin. Yang saya muliakan seluruh duta besar serta perwakilan negara-negara sahabat. On behalf of the people of Indonesia, I would like to thank you for your distinguished presence. You honor us by coming all the way in the midst of your very busy schedule to grace us with your presence in our moment of constitutional sovereignty. Saudara-saudara sekalian, beberapa saat yang lalu di hadapan majelis yang terhormat ini, di hadapan seluruh rakyat Indonesia, dan yang terpenting di hadapan Tuhan Yang Maha Kuasa, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Saya, Prabowo Subianto, dan Saudara Gibran Rakabuming Raka telah mengucapkan sumpah untuk mempertahankan Undang-Undang Dasar kita, untuk menjalankan semua undang-undang dan peraturan yang berlaku, untuk berbakti kepada negara dan bangsa. Sumpah tersebut akan kami jalankan dengan sebaik-baiknya. Dengan penuh rasa tanggung jawab dan dengan semua kekuatan yang ada pada jiwa dan raga kami. Kami akan menjalankan kepemimpinan pemerintah Republik Indonesia, kepemimpinan negara dan bangsa Indonesia dengan tulus, dengan mengutamakan kepentingan seluruh rakyat Indonesia, termasuk mereka-mereka yang tidak memilih kami. Kami akan mengutamakan kepentingan bangsa Indonesia, kepentingan rakyat Indonesia di atas segala kepentingan, di atas segala golongan, apalagi kepentingan pribadi kami. Saudara-saudara sekalian, tantangan, rintangan, hambatan, dan ancaman yang dihadapi oleh bangsa Indonesia di tengah dinamika dan pergolatan dunia tidak ringan. Saudara-saudara sekalian, kita faham, kita mengerti bahwa karunia yang diberikan oleh Yang Maha Kuasa kepada kita sungguh sangat besar dan sungguh sangat beragam. Kita memiliki luas wilayah daratan dan lautan yang sangat besar. Kita memiliki kekayaan alam yang sangat besar. Kita mengerti bahwa sumber alam ini terdiri dari sumber-sumber alam yang sangat penting untuk kehidupan manusia di abad ke-21 dan seterusnya. Namun, di tengah segala karunia tersebut, di tengah segala kelebihan yang kita miliki, yang memang membuat kita harus menghadapi masa depan dengan optimis, tetapi kita pun harus berani untuk melihat hambatan, tantangan, rintangan, ancaman, dan kesulitan yang ada di hadapan kita. Saya selalu mengajak saudara-saudaraku sebangsa dan setanah air untuk menjadi bangsa yang berani, bangsa yang tidak takut tantangan, bangsa yang tidak takut rintangan, bangsa yang tidak takut ancaman. Saudara-saudara sekalian, sesungguhnya sejarah kita adalah sejarah dengan penuh kepahlawanan, penuh pengorbanan, penuh keberanian. Tidak hanya pemimpin-pemimpin, tapi keberanian rakyat kita menghadapi segala tantangan, bahkan invasi-invasi dari bangsa lain. Saudara-saudara sekalian, kita faham dan kita mengerti bahwa kemerdekaan kita bukan hadiah. Kemerdekaan kita dapat dengan pengorbanan yang sangat besar. Saudara-saudara sekalian, dan kita harus faham dan ingat selalu, pengorbanan yang paling besar adalah pengorbanan dari rakyat kita yang paling miskin. Wong cilik yang berjuang, yang memberi makan kepada pejuang-pejuang. Janganlah kita lupa, waktu kita perang kemerdekaan, kita tidak punya anggaran, kita tidak punya APBN, pasukan kita tidak digaji. Siapa yang memberi makan kepada kita? Yang beri makan adalah para petani di desa-desa. Yang beri makan adalah para nelayan. Yang beri makan adalah para pekerja. Terus-menerus mereka yang mendirikan Republik Indonesia. Sekarang saya mengajak saudara-saudara, terutama unsur pimpinan dari semua kalangan, dari kalangan cendekiawan, dari kalangan ulama, dari kalangan pengusaha, dari kalangan pemimpin politik, dari kalangan pemuda dan mahasiswa. Mari kita berani menghadapi tantangan-tantangan tersebut. Saudara-saudara sekalian, tantangan yang besar yang kita hadapi ada yang berasal dari luar kita. Tapi harus kita akui, harus kita berani mengakui, banyak tantangan, banyak kesulitan, banyak rintangan yang berasal dari diri kita sendiri. Ada tantangan-tantangan, kesulitan-kesulitan yang terjadi karena kita kurang waspada. Karena kadang-kadang kita tidak handal dan tidak piawai dalam mengurus kekayaan kita sendiri. Saudara-saudara sekalian, marilah kita berani mawas diri. Marilah kita berani menatap wajah kita sendiri. Dan mari kita berani memperbaiki diri kita sendiri. Marilah kita berani mengoreksi diri kita sendiri. Saudara-saudara sekalian, kita harus menghadapi kenyataan bahwa masih terlalu banyak kebocoran, penyelewengan, korupsi di negara kita. Ini adalah yang membahayakan masa depan kita dan masa depan anak-anak kita dan cucu-cucu kita. Kita harus berani mengakui terlalu banyak kebocoran-kebocoran dari anggaran kita, penyimpangan-penyimpangan, kolusi di antara para pejabat politik, pejabat pemerintah di semua tingkatan, dengan pengusaha-pengusaha yang nakal, pengusaha-pengusaha yang tidak patriotik. Janganlah kita takut untuk melihat realita ini. Kita masih melihat sebagian saudara-saudara kita yang belum menikmati hasil kemerdekaan. Terlalu banyak saudara-saudara kita yang berada di bawah garis kemiskinan. Terlalu banyak anak-anak kita yang berangkat sekolah tidak makan pagi. Terlalu banyak anak-anak kita yang tidak punya pakaian untuk berangkat sekolah. Saudara-saudara sekalian, kita sebagai pemimpin politik, jangan kita terlalu senang melihat angka-angka statistik yang membuat kita terlalu cepat gembira, terlalu cepat puas, padahal kita belum melihat gambaran sepenuhnya. Kita merasa bangga bahwa kita diterima di kalangan G20. Kita merasa bangga bahwa kita disebut ekonomi ke-16 terbesar di dunia. Tapi apakah kita sungguh-sungguh faham? Apa kita sungguh-sungguh melihat gambaran yang utuh dari keadaan kita? Apakah kita sadar bahwa kemiskinan di Indonesia masih terlalu besar? Apakah kita sadar bahwa rakyat kita dan anak-anak kita banyak yang kurang gizi? Banyak rakyat kita yang tidak dapat pekerjaan yang baik. Banyak sekolah-sekolah kita yang tidak terurus. Saudara-saudara sekalian, kita harus berani melihat ini semua. Dan kita harus berani menyelesaikan masalah ini semua. Saudara-saudara sekalian, saya mengajak kita semua, marilah kita berani melihat kenyataan. Kita boleh bangga dengan prestasi kita, tapi marilah kita jangan tertegun, jangan terlalu cepat puas, jangan terlalu cepat gembira dengan menutup mata dan hati kita terhadap tantangan-tantangan dan penderitaan saudara-saudara kita. Saudara-saudara sekalian, kita tidak boleh memiliki sikap seperti burung unta yang kalau melihat sesuatu yang tidak enak, ia memasukkan kepalanya dalam tanah. Mari kita menatap ancaman dan bahaya dengan gagah. Marilah kita menghadapi kesulitan dengan berani. Saudara-saudara sekalian, marilah kita berhimpun. Marilah kita bersatu untuk mencari solusi-solusi. Mencari jalan keluar dari ancaman dan bahaya tersebut. Saudara-saudara sekalian, saya telah mencanangkan bahwa Indonesia harus segera swasembada pangan dalam waktu yang sesingkat-singkatnya. Kita tidak boleh tergantung sumber makanan dari luar. Dalam krisis, dalam keadaan genting, tidak ada yang akan mengizinkan barang-barang mereka untuk kita beli. Karena itu, tidak ada jalan lain. Dalam waktu yang sesingkat-singkatnya, kita harus mencapai ketahanan pangan. Kita harus mampu memproduksi dan memenuhi kebutuhan pangan seluruh rakyat Indonesia. Saya sudah mempelajari bersama pakar-pakar yang membantu saya. Saya yakin paling lambat 4 sampai 5 tahun kita akan swasembada pangan.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a wide ranging speech from President Prabowo, because I'm not sure if this is teleprompter or not, because Mr. Prabowo have the tendency of, speaking in a long speech. But I want to get the first take on the inaugural speech, because this is really interesting. Lacking some specifics, but I think it's really wide-ranging. But I want to first start with Phillips. What is your take on the inaugural speech?
Yeah, I think what we just saw is a typical Pak Prabowo speech that invokes patriotism and a sense of resilience. He mentioned a couple of times about this food security, and some of this that he's been saying this since 2014 campaign. So meaning that is really what he believes. And I think a couple of points can be made. Number one, in terms of, for example, food security, he's been campaigning for this quite a long time, and it seems to me that he got the inspiration from two largest country that have been able to maintain their food security. India has been busy feeding their 1.3 billion people. That's why they are very protectionist in their agricultural sector. And same thing with Xi Jinping in China, busy feeding this 1.2 billion people, or 1.3 billion people. That's a huge task. And then Pak Prabowo made it as a promise in front of the Indonesian people right now and international community as well. That I think the last point that he made was he believed in 4 or 5 years we would be able to achieve that that level of food security. Bu Henry might have more insight on this, but the last time we had that was during the Suharto government, and that was only, I think, lasted for 1 year. So it's not difficult. It requires a lot of transformation and thinking and policy. Number two, he invoked as well a sense of solidarity with the with the less fortunate economically Indonesian. And in the past 3 presidents, SBY, Pak Jokowi, and now Pak Prabowo, that kind of poverty alleviation program were being given to the office of vice president. Right? Pak Budiono and to some extent Pak Yusuf Kala with the TNP 2K and so on. So that's I don't know how he's going to, because that encompasses so many cross-departmental I think coordination and programs. And we, as you said, lack of specifics, but I think we will hear more from the ministers once they are sworn in by Pak Prabowo. President Prabowo.
President Prabowo, we have to say
Right.
that now. Adam, what do you think of the speech, especially the part where I think he spent like 10 minutes, inviting all the, naming all the foreign delegation. Is that a sort of a shift towards something new?
I don't think it's happened before. In May, I haven't watched every inauguration, but it was quite striking how long he spent recognizing all the foreign representatives, and I'm guessing an indication that he is. This will be a theme of his presidency, that he will be, I think, quite a bit more focused on foreign affairs, international relations than Pak Jokowi. I was also sort of taken in the part of the remarks that we heard of him sort of identifying a number of threats and dangers facing Indonesia. And to be fair, I mean, he's right. The world is getting more complicated by the day, and he's a very internationally sort of knowledgeable, sophisticated in foreign policy, and I suspect highlighting Indonesia as part of the world and integrated with that world by identifying all these foreign leaders is probably a clue to one clue to sort of what kind of presidency he's going to have. And again, we talked about a lot of priorities, but clearly foreign policy is going to be a top priority.
Yeah, I will go back on the sort of international side of things, but I want to get your take as well, Pak Yusuf, on the speech so far. Unfortunately, we can only get the early part, but
Right.
we can come back
Well,
later.
I think of Bung Karno. No, he tried to emulate Bung Karno, and especially, of course, paying attention to the people, the small people particularly. He has done well on that. Not a problem is, in practice, can he implement it? That is high expectations that he has created, and I think let us see how this is going to fare in the first year, and then next year we can repeat again what we have said now, whether something has come out or not for the good.
Yeah.
But I think it's the right way to get and catch the attention of the people, and that is by paying attention to them.
Yeah, and the first mention in the speech, in terms of the big ticket items, the big program was the food sustainability, as
Sure.
Pak Philip mentioned
Sure.
earlier. Do you think this is sort of because as a politician he needs a quick win, right?
Sure.
And food sustainability, this is sort of long-term agenda.
Yeah.
Do you think it's not wise for him to promise this?
He is head of the Farmers Association.
Association, yeah.
So therefore, he cannot miss this, right? And I think he meant well on this. But of course, the saying is another thing than doing it, because it is a very critical issue that is full of problems that we are facing now. And if he is not really paying attention to that, he will miss the boat, I think.
Okay. Bu Henry, your take on the speech, and also especially because the first mention was the food sustainability
Yes.
program.
Yes, I think from the president's speech, we can get that he will be priority on the domestic economy, social and economy, but domestically. So this is the maybe if we talk about the food sustainability or security, we know already for a long time, but he always talking about that. But the new one is about the G20. I think it will be a different policy in the international politics and economy, because for him this is not an achievement, because we still have homework at home. So will be different policy for the international. But I don't think that President is going to only inviting the domestic player for the economy. No, he is very open-minded and also agree with the FDI, foreign direct investment. So I don't worry about that. that he will invite it. But the more important is the domestic economy, domestic social, and also for the social and poverty and unemployment. Pak Prabowo tried to preparing many strategy. That's why many ministers to support it. But like what the other speaker said, this is bureaucracy. This is not easy. With you want to do this, then to implement we need very long. Not only the regulation, but also who will going to do, and from where the finance come from, the budget. So this is not easy. But one thing that I think this is new is about his opinion about the Indonesian player in the international, in the global economy.
Yeah, and this is the part where he mentioned about that being members of G20 or the OECD, for instance, is not really enough, right? Because the point is
the homework is at home.
But isn't that kind of a contradiction? Because he projects himself to be sort of internationalist. He wants to play a major role, but at the same time, he doesn't seem to be keen on being member of G20. If this is not for the
of course, yeah, he is going to be more, I think, but. Try to what is this new opinion about the Indonesian role in the international economy, I think, because in the last 10 years I don't think Pak Jokowi do make the underline on that.
Okay, and I think that's a sort of perfect introduction to our sort of next segment, which is international politics. We haven't discussed about that. And I think, at least from the opening of the speech, we know that, this is someone who is sort of internationally oriented, right? And the mention about G20, and OECD, but it has to bring something to the table, to the to people, to the poor. That's kind of what will set apart Pak Prabowo and Pak Jokowi. But I want to, again, go back to the international relation questions, because Pak Prabowo, as a student of international politics, and judging from a number of countries that he has visited, China, Russia, not yet to the United States, but probably he wants to have a bigger role for Indonesia in the midst of this sort of geopolitical competition as well. And I want to remind our audience that I think last week he invited this United States professor, John Mearsheimer, a very well-known scholar, international relations. Probably you can sort of shed light on that, Adam.
Well, I saw that news about Professor Mearsheimer, who's a quite famous international relations scholar from the realist school of thought. I thought it was interesting, before we get to Professor Mearsheimer, the fact that President Prabowo had sort of arranged for a kind of an orientation session for his incoming cabinet on international relations, which again is not something that we would have had in the last administration. Again, I think it shows that he recognizes that the world is complicated, and Indonesia is going to have to make decisions and choices and be very thoughtful how it manages. And the fact that I think he's clearly intending to be a very active foreign policy president, and therefore it makes perfect sense that he wants his cabinet to be well informed about these geopolitical issues and trends that are going on. With respect to people have been sort of speculating on why Professor Mearsheimer, and does that sort of realist view reflect Pak Prabowo's view of the world? And the realism is, that theory is really based on that, global politics is a competitive place, and that nations compete, to sort of protect their interests and a focus on security. And I suppose to some respects, that probably does reflect Papa Prabowo's view of the world. On the other hand, he's also talked quite a lot about wanting Indonesia to play a stronger role internationally in promoting cooperation among the global powers and strengthening institutions for that kind of collaboration, which is not really a realist. It's more from the international theory of liberalism, and so there's probably bits of different ways of looking at the world, and which one prevails, I guess we'll see going forward.
And Pak Yusuf, what is your take on that?
I think when he said about foreign policy, it was just very small though. The big part that he has been stressing is domestic politics, and of course rightly so. Because on the international part, he will leave it to us. And then, of course, he will heading it everywhere, but at the same time, he knows so many people already that are interested and that are following that, so he can rest assured that he will have enough, people doing that. But the domestic part, that he is worried about. You can see that, actually. And including, and I'm very actually glad that he mentioned corruption.
Yes.
This is the biggest problem that he is going to face, according to me. And if he is not doing something about that, he is in bad shape, I can tell you that.
And the fact that he begins with food sustainability and then the mention of corruption, do you think that this sort of balance, the interests of the domestic politics? Because we have seen him sort of actively, traveling so far.
On that, you don't have to worry about him. The problem is he has to worry about the domestic part. And I'm worried only that he is not paying attention to that enough.
Okay.
Because that will be the main issue that he has to tackle at the end of the day.
Pak Phillips, what is your take on sort of the international orientation of Pak Prabowo?
Well, I think the last time we had a president with the interaction with global thinker was Bung Karno. So it's good now that we have this president that engage with the discourse, international discourse. I think that's fresh air as well. But I agree with Pak Yusuf and others that the main thing is domestic. And he believed, I think he stated once at CSIS, foreign policy begins at home. That's why you have a solid foundation economically, because otherwise the place that Pak Prabowo seems Indonesia to have in the international community is a well-respected country, meaning all this less corruption, inefficient economy. I think he mentioned quite few times about the leakage, bocor, and then that's his campaign theme in 2014. So all these bureaucratic hurdles, and then that would prevent us from developing. He clearly attacked this through his speech, but again, how he is going to do that at a time when, for example, we did have a anti-corruption commission being weakened and so on. So which way he's going to solve all these problems that President Prabowo has identified? That's, I think, a big question that we need to follow.
Yeah, and I remember, and this is Pak Prabowo's speech at CSIS, when I think this is the Q&A session, when he was asked by one of the European ambassadors that, we love the West, but the West or European Union doesn't love us back. I was expecting the same tone in the speech, but when he mentioned especially about colonialism, but that didn't come out. Do you think that, it sort of have, not tone down, but shift some of the rhetoric to make it more palatable for the global audience?
I think he addressed that indirectly by saying that we need to stand up against challenges from domestic and from, especially he mentioned from outside. So I think that's kind of an indirect way of saying the same thing that has been saying for a long time.
Okay, and Bu Henry, how do you think Pak Prabowo can leverage on his sort of international connection, so to speak, to sort of help drive some of his domestic agenda?
I think,
especially on the economic front. Sorry.
Yes. For the next 5 years, I think Pak Prabowo will start with still domestic economy, but with different positioning in the international relation. totally different with Pak Jokowi. So he will use the international connection network to help the Indonesian economy. So it's not because of the important is domestic economy, but we will solve the problem domestically by using the international connection. And we know that so many global experts inviting by him to talking about how Indonesia can be involved in the global economy and then solve the national problem. Because for poverty and also for the agriculture, we cannot solve by ourselves. We need technology, we need investment from outside. And the difference is the positioning, the bargaining position for that.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Bu Henry. I think we still have the speech. This is quite a long speech because the speech is still ongoing. Can we have this up on the screen because this is
Ideologi negara Pancasila.
probably important.
Yang keluar masuk penjara, dibuang di mana-mana dari sejak muda karena memperjuangkan Indonesia merdeka. Indonesia tidak mau menjadi darah bagi bangsa-bangsa lain. Soekarno, Hatta, Syahrir, semua pendiri bangsa ini berkorban dan telah memimpin kita dengan baik. Kita juga bersyukur kepada Presiden Soeharto yang banyak jasanya dalam menyelamatkan dan mengamankan ideologi Pancasila itu sendiri, yang telah meletakkan dasar bagi Indonesia yang modern. Kita berterima kasih kepada Presiden Habibie yang telah membuat dasar untuk kita meraih dan menguasai ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi. Kita berterima kasih kepada Presiden Abdurrahman Wahid yang telah memberi contoh toleransi antar agama, antar suku, yang menjunjung tinggi inklusif, Indonesia yang inklusif dan toleran. Kita berterima kasih kepada Presiden Megawati yang menyelesaikan masalah-masalah ekonomi akibat crash tahun 98. Harus diakui, di bawah pemerintah Megawati, masalah perusahaan-perusahaan yang banyak hancur dapat diperbaiki dan diselamatkan. Kita harus berterima kasih kepada Presiden Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono yang memimpin Indonesia di saat krisis yang sangat berat, menghadapi tsunami, menyelesaikan bersama Wakil Presiden Yusuf Kala, menyelesaikan pertikaian di Aceh yang sudah berjalan begitu lama. Ini prestasi yang harus kita akui. Saudara-saudara sekalian, mereka semua dengan cara masing-masing memiliki sumbangsih terhadap apa yang sekarang kita nikmati. Negara kesatuan yang utuh, yang berdaulat, yang merdeka, yang terus menjaga dan berjuang untuk kemerdekaan dan keadilan. Saudara-saudara sekalian, sekarang kita ucapkan terima kasih juga kepada Presiden Republik Indonesia yang ke-7. Presiden Joko Widodo dengan Wakil Presiden Profesor Ma'ruf Amin. Terima kasih atas kepemimpinan Bapak. Terima kasih atas kenegarawanan Bapak. Bapak telah menakodai bangsa ini melalui krisis-krisis yang sungguh sangat berat. Jangan kita merasakan hari ini. Ingat waktu COVID, kita bahkan keluar dari rumah kita takut. saya saksi, saya menterinya beliau, semua pihak dalam dan luar negeri telepon terus, menekan beliau terus, minta lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. Beliau menolak. Beliau berpikir, kalau kita lockdown, bagaimana wong cilik, bagaimana warung Tegal, bagaimana ojol, bagaimana rakyat-rakyat yang makannya dari upah harian. Jangan kita lupa prestasi pemimpin-pemimpin kita. Terima kasih Pak Jokowi, terima kasih Profesor Ma'ruf Amin. Anda telah berjasa, Anda akan dikenang sebagai putra Indonesia yang termasuk terbaik. Saudara-saudara sekalian, akhir kata, saya mohon doa restu saudara-saudara. Mari kita bangun Indonesia di atas landasan yang sudah dirintis oleh pendahulu-pendahulu kita. Mari kita belajar, semua kekurangan kita akui dan kita perbaiki. Hentikan dendam, hilangkan kebencian, bangun kerukunan, bangun gotong royong. Itu kepribadian bangsa Indonesia, itu ajaran Bung Karno sendiri. Saudara-saudara sekalian, kami siap melanjutkan estafet kepimpinan. Kita siap bekerja keras menuju Indonesia Emas, menjadi bangsa yang kuat, merdeka, berdaulat, adil dan makmur. Kita tidak mau mengganggu siapapun.
Okay, yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think we got to the part where he paid tribute to all the president, but especially the longest tribute was to Pak Jokowi, right, the predecessor, and this is sort of fitting with the theme of continuity. And I think the questions will be how Pak Prabowo will sort of, shed some of the influence from Pak Jokowi. Will Pak Prabowo be his own man? Because at least in the next 1 or 2 years, he have to deal with some of the influences from Pak Jokowi's time. Pak Yusuf, you want your take on that?
Well, what I can see is going to happen is that he pretended, of course, that he has to be paying attention and homage and what have you to Jokowi. But if it comes to the crunch, but he also to take decisions, for tomorrow. And that already happened in the budget, right? You see some of the budget that was proposed for the new capital has been cut by him. Only to 1/3, what they was asking. So, and then, also in the other fields, of course, that when the corruption,
KPK, Pak.
yeah, body,
Okay.
Took this decision.
Yes.
And there was a lot of opposition on his side, actually, on Jokowi's side, to reject that, right? That is the last one. And he said to Dasko in Parliament, no, just stay with the Constitutional Court.
Yeah.
So these are already examples. It's very quiet, but saying, don't do that.
Yeah.
Although that was actually the wishes of Jokowi.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is only a small example yet what is going to come. I think there will be more, but I hope they will do it decently at least, so that we are not in trouble because of that.
Yeah. And this is the moment when they they tried to change the regional election law, right?
That's right.
To make way for Kaisang to be the
president,
gubernatorial candidate.
For the Central Java.
Okay.
At that time, right?
Okay. The same questions to Adam. How do you think Prabowo will be different to Jokowi, Pak Jokowi, the former president?
Well, let me focus maybe more on the economic side. He has laid out very ambitious targets, annual growth of 8%, for example, which is significantly higher than what's been achieved over the last 10 years. To get there, there's going to have to be pretty substantial reforms, and as the other speakers have said, a focus on kind of the domestic economy and how to attract more investments. It's going to take a great deal of investment to get to that higher growth rate. There's some, obviously, domestic investment will play a big role. There's not a great deal of fiscal space for the government to play. So a good deal of that is going to have to come from foreign sources of one type or another. It's a very competitive world out there for foreign capital. So is he prepared to sort of, part company with some of Jokowi's policies that some of his ministers, some of his same ministers who are now are going to stay in his cabinets? He'll have to change some of those policies because a number of those policies have been not so welcoming to investments, and that will, as he's going to have to choose. Am I going to stay with those policies, or am I going to make the changes that are going to allow for more investment and higher growth? Another example would be, on the fiscal side, he has said that, he's not going to raise taxes. And so the only way to really create more fiscal space, in his view, is to raise the tax ratio, collect a lot more taxes. So, he referred to perusahaan nakal in his speech, right? There are a lot of companies and individuals who aren't paying all the taxes they owe. That's not a secret. So if he's really going to raise the tax ratio, he's going to have to crack down on that. And doing that is going to be unpopular with a number of companies and individuals who are currently not paying all their taxes. So again, it's Jokowi had, 10 years ago, Jokowi himself promised to raise the tax ratio, and he didn't really. He didn't do the things you'd have to do that. So there are a number of ways where he's going to have to break with Pak Jokowi's style and approach if he's going to achieve his own goals. How that relationship then with Pak Jokowi goes, as Pak you said, one hopes for the best and we hope it's smooth, but clearly, in a number of areas, I think we can safely say there's going to be a little divergent path coming up.
And also in the speech, he mentioned about corruption, and I believe that there are a number of vested interests, inherited from the last administration. Do you think that he will have the sort of grit to crack down on this or to change things, Pak Prabowo?
Well, he certainly, as we heard in his speech, he clearly sees it as a problem. I think it was unusual in a way for him to mention it so early in his speech, but I think he did that purposely. That he does come from a security military background. We'll see. It's not, you don't wave a magic wand and make corruption go away. We'll see, for example, will he sort of re-strengthen the KPK, the Corruption Eradication Commission? That would be one clue as to, whether he's going to do the hard things to really sort of, in a practical way to crack down on corruption.
Okay. And I want to turn to Pak Phillips, and this is, on the issue of corruption, but more on the, we've been hearing in the past 10 years, the democratic backsliding with, all the opposition in the House being, absorbed into the government, the absence of checks and balances, for instance. What do you see in the next 5 years under Pak Prabowo about sort of, the fate of our experiment with democracy?
Right. This is I don't have my crystal ball, but I think the speech is, I think, very interesting because Pak Prabowo, and like usual, he's not sugarcoating he said what he thought. So, in a sense, it's predictable. I don't know, from the business sectors, predictability is important, right? In the past few presidents, we tried to read the mind of the presidents. But it seems to me Pak Prabowo is more open and clear. Whether you disagree or agree with him, that's another question. But at least he's not sugarcoating what he is saying. That's, I think, number one. So in a sense, there's a predictability there. Number two, as far as this democratic backsliding or regression that many scholars and commentators, journalists have been saying in the past few years, I think we are unlucky. He mentioned about COVID-19. So okay. COVID-19, in my view, created big governments everywhere, not only in Indonesia. So suddenly you have a big role of the state, and it became norms that we rely on the state. You need laws to be passed quickly during the COVID-19. So there's a pretext for Pak Prabowo in the next 5 years, because during Pak Jokowi's last term, we were hit by COVID-19. Suddenly, big government is in place, big bureaucracies. He mentioned about during COVID-19, we could not go out of our house out of fear. But I think basically that was the time when government told us what to do, right? And we relied on the government, social subsidies, vaccines. And then the government told us not to go or stay in the house and so on. And so now I think the problem and the question is not really about are we going to have better democracy or not. But in my view, better question to us is, are we going to have better governance, to achieve all these, goals that Prabowo has been set and laid out during the speech and the campaign. So that's, I think, more pertinent question that we need to ask. Because good governance can happen in less democratic country and in democratic country. And during COVID-19, the U.S. performed very badly in tackling COVID-19, despite all this, democratic foundation that they have. But on the other hand, some countries that is considered less democratic, quote unquote, Singapore, they did well. So the key is really governance. And then I think that's a more pertinent question to ask right now.
Okay, but also some of the worry that has been expressed was that, and probably this is also part having to do with the COVID-19, is that sort of the rise of strong men, and this has been mentioned a lot, right?
Yes.
Do you think that the sort of the current political arrangement in Indonesia, the current political party system, the regular election, will this be enough? Because this has been the worry, right? To check the rise of sort of strong men or strong leader.
Right. So what we have since '98 is we have more veto players, right? In the form of leaders of political parties, fragmented DPR, big coalition, and so on. And past presidents, SBY and Pak Jokowi, decided to tackle the problem through granting them positions in the cabinets. And in a way, buying them into their policy framework. Now, with Pak Prabowo, given his different character, how long he will be able to solve these problems through negotiation and settlement, we have yet to see. But so far, it seems that the reason why we have this big cabinet is that he is, following the pathways of SBY and Jokowi. But he also mentioned that he will give them 1 year, and then so that I hope they perform well. So he will continue accepting negotiation and settlement with the political community and as well as the economic community in Indonesia.
It's related to what Ibu said earlier, and that is the role of the private sector is a critical issue,
Right.
and that has not been solved yet in their minds.
Yeah.
That I think is more and related to your expectation of the foreigners. You don't have private sector, activities. What is their role? Nothing. So there must be a lot more thoughts, given to this role of the private sector, which has not been done. Yeah, everything is state. They would like to go easy, make a road. Don't care about that the conditions should be that you have to go through the process of rules that has to be followed. They don't do that anymore, right? In the last administration of Jokowi, according to me, so many of the state enterprises has done, and now they are all bankrupt because of that. Because there are the rules, no rules they follow. And here we have to look into the problem and the challenge where the private sector will have a role or not to play. Otherwise, I think expectations will be fulfilled, and that is that we are not going to get enough to build not only the 8%, the 5% we don't need to get.
Okay, Bu Henry, what is your thought on what Pak Yusuf just mentioned? And this has a lot to do with the corruption that Pak Prabowo mentioned earlier about the big role that the government or the state has played through BUMN, for instance, in the past 10 years. Will this change in the coming years? Like the role of the big governments?
Yeah, I think Pak Prabowo is going to take a big role for the government in this economy, but not through that economy. So it's different. I mean, if Pak Jokowi said that through state-owned enterprises to do this, to do that, but the role of the government is just little. But I think Pak Prabowo will be different. I will do this, more centralistic doing this, but not me, not the government who doing that. But this is the private sector. According to the discussion in the team, they trying to be more flexible. Yes, not only to the state-owned, but also for the private sector. But then we know that finally the structure for the Ministry of State-owned will go back to the old one. So we hope that that is just the short term. But Pak Prabowo is going to encourage the private sector in this, because with big and huge priority and also target, this is not easy to rely on state-owned. So the cooperation is also, that's why it's going to be two minister of SMEs and minister of cooperation. So cooperative. So it will be different approach, I think. That's why in the beginning I said that it's important for Pak Prabowo to make the guideline, what is his dream to the team, because it will be the different approach to achieve the target.
Adam, you want to add something to this?
I think both of those are very good points. I think for me it's a little bit less private sector versus state-owned enterprises, and the key is really competition. Is there? I mean, no country has a perfectly level playing field, but can we get closer to a level playing field? And this is also related to, getting more foreign investment in. Indonesia, again, relative to a number of ASEAN neighbors, is a little bit behind in terms of its involvement with trade agreements, for example. 4 of the ASEAN 10 are members of the CPTPP, but Indonesia is not. It's taken a long time to try to establish a trade agreement with Europe, for example. It does not have a free trade agreement with the United States. So these sort of things are going to start to matter, right, going forward. If Indonesia's economy is very integrated in the global economy, which is a good thing, but again, there's an ongoing competition for capital, and part of the chore of winning that competition is making sure that there's more competition in the domestic economy as well.
Okay, I think we still have 5 minutes. I'm going to give each speaker to sort of share their final thoughts, optimism, pessimism. I want to start with Bu Henry, after seeing, today's inauguration and what we have discussed so far. What is your sort of optimism, or what is your thoughts on the prospects?
After we congratulate him, and then we have to still have optimism because the global is changes, also domestic. There's a lot of homework that need to do fast and also precisely to choose the what this is the policy. But I still have like a question because Pak Prabowo put the Pancasila ideology as number one in the Astacita. So what is the meaning? Because if really want to implement it, so it's going to be the economic democracy. So it means it's going to asking many people to do economic activity. So it means that different with before. So how to manage this? 8% is okay. And Pak Jokowi is also put like 7% at that time. But then it's only 5%. So we're really waiting. So how to implement the 8%? Because 5% is not enough, and 5% is under the Indonesian potential for the economic growth. So we still have hope. But how to manage this? The international and also domestic market, they are waiting about the how to implement this.
Okay. Thank you, Bu Henry. Phillips.
Yeah, just a general observation based on the speech that Pak Prabowo had delivered. I've been thinking about what you asked Ibu Henry earlier about quick wins, and whether or not he will have quick wins or he will concentrate on the structural, foundation. Now, in the context of election and democracy that we have, right? Now, whether the public or the electorates would be, they have some patience, to wait for the results of structural program or structural change that Pak Prabowo seems to have in mind. And at the same time, whether Pak Prabowo has some patience as well, then to understand that people in the context of election needs quick wins. Right? That's number one. And that would have some excesses. For example, the food security program, and one of the area that has been designated for this food estate is Papua, right? And that would certainly bring a complicated problem, because Papua has been the problem for so many presidents that we have never been able to, right now, to really win the hearts and mind of our brothers and sisters in Papua. And that's something that would have some, complicated excesses. Then it depends on whether or not Pak Prabowo would have some, as I said earlier, some patience to have a negotiated settlement of the results of what he's been trying to perform.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Phillips. Adam, your thoughts?
I would say, listen, there's a lot of optimism about Indonesia's potential. Right? There we have political stability. The election went very smoothly. Does not happen in every country. As you know, Prabowo listed a number of advantages from natural resources to, he's got a young population, so we do still have a lot of demographic wind in the sails. There's because of all the infrastructure that has been built in the last 10 years, there's less economic activity dependent on Jakarta and Java, and it's a bit more spread out across the country, which is itself a driver of economic growth. So there's a lot of potential there, and a lot of the things that Prabowo has said he wants to do are the right things. And so for me, it's really, the worry is really the implementation. We've all talked about it. There's a coordination challenge with this big cabinet. There's an organizational challenge with all these new ministries. And then finally, there's to do the things that he'll need to do to reach the 8% growth is going to be disruptive. It's going to be different, and that's going to engender resistance. All reforms get a feedback, right? And people will not want it. And then he'll be, to use the title of your session, that's where we're at the crossroads. Where is he going to push through? Is he going to have the grit to do it? And how is he going to hold this governing coalition together as he does it? That's, I think, what people are waiting to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. Pak Yusuf,
I think the unfortunate thing is really that we need to go through this transitional period. And that transitional period is because the relationship between Jokowi and Prabowo, and setting all this actually cooperation up, including the son being vice president, including the policies that has been taken now for the future is very, well, I would say to feel more difficult than usual because all this, I don't want to say stupid mix that we have actually, but that is a fact that we have to take care of. That's why the role of the media, the role of think tanks, the role of the of the universities are going to be much more difficult and much more worthwhile to do, because this is not going to come naturally. If there is no good pressure, they are not going to do it, to be frank. They will go the easy way. This is a much more difficult way to come to a good, positive results. So I think, therefore, the limits of democracy and all that has to be lifted, otherwise we are not going to get through. And of course I have to remind Prabowo every time, mind you are trusted now, okay? You have to do it. And I hope so that he is going to listen, hopefully, that he is willing to change in the right way. Because without that, we are not going to get there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Yusuf. I think from what the speakers have said, I think we can be still cautiously optimistic about the prospect that some of the things can be achieved. But I think from what Adam mentioned, it's going to be about the implementation. I think you also mentioned about that, and I think with that we can wrap up our discussion today. Thank you so much, all the speakers, for your insights and trying to make sense of the new and latest development from the presidency of Prabowo Subianto. That's new. And before we go, I think I would like to remind our audience about our special issue. This is the Jakarta-Post special issue, A New Horizon. This focus on the economic issues that President Prabowo Subianto will have to deal in the next 5 years. So you can get this on the newsstand. And I would like to also express our thanks to Indosat and ExxonMobil Cepu and all of our other sponsors for their support today. And last but not least, I would like to thank all the audience online for joining us this afternoon. In the meantime, this is your host, Taufik Rahman, signing off, and happy Sunday, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terima kasih, Bu Henry.
Makasih.
Thank you.